Welcome to another edition of Dream Up, coming to you from KBF 88.3 FM in Little Rock, nationally syndicated and internationally streamed. It's the show where a reporter, a comic, and a lawyer walk into a bar and come out with a great hour of radio of talking about how they each achieved their dreams in their distinct walks of life, complete with interviews each week with celebrities, experts, and average Joes and Janes who achieved their dreams and are here to talk about the obstacles they overcame to achieve them. So today, our very special guest is a female comic who has done countless hilarious bits as a talking photo booth on The Tonight Show, been a regular on Girls Behaving Badly, and has had 2 hilarious comedy specials of her own. She's also a wife and mom who juggles both parts of her life with great success. Give it up for KIRA Soltanovich.
KIRA.
Yeah.
So happy. I've done so many shows with KIRA, and she's just such a talented comic. She's got a wit that'll just cut you down in seconds. So she'll probably be attacking us as the interview goes on, which will be very fun because we enjoy picking on each other. So somebody else coming in from the outside wouldn't surprise me if she throws.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, she's great. She's great.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of your hosts. My name is Carl, double portion Kozlowski, because I'm supersized and I want a double portion of blessings from the Lord. And with me as always, I'm from Little Rock. With me as always from Hollywood is
Ron. I tell jokes for a living, Pearson. And hey, I'm just so happy to have another comic on today. It's great. And Carl, maybe you can serve us up some funny with all of your great writing skills. Antonio, you're a lawyer, so that's already funny. and from Las Vegas is.
And I'm Antonio Fun-Size Delgado here from Las Vegas, and it'll be nice to finally have a comic on the show.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes. Oh, that was a slam. So I don't count, huh?
Keep up.
Oh man, it's weird being here in California. I read a thing that said most accidents happen within a mile of your home. I'm moving, man. I'm moving. I thought, it's location. Apparently I picked accident central. I don't know how that works.
What kind of accidents? Because usually, when you're out on the streets and you want to use the bathroom and you're like, I can make it home. I know I can make it home. But, you're within 1 mile of your home when that accident happens.
I don't have that kind of accident, Antonio, but thank you for sharing. But there's so many people leaving California right now. I mean, geez.
I just left.
You left. Carl, you left. We were all here together. And now Carl's in Arkansas. You're in Vegas, and you all left me behind in LA. And so I came from Washington State. My wife came from Texas because everybody comes to California from somewhere else, right? So we assumed we'd breastfeed our kid, but he was born in California. So he's a mandatory vegan. He won't breastfeed, no dairy. I did not see that coming.
That's funny.
But I think California's kind of made me soft, It was a once great state. We had so many things here, but in the past, it's so different now. Like, California gave us Silicon Valley, now Silicon breasts, right? They gave us a few good men. Now we have the Kardashians. They gave us no smoking sections. Now we have all the marijuana you want, anywhere you want, all day, all time.
Yeah, that's true.
Screw the cigarette people.
Hey, you know what? I was just thinking about that yesterday, actually, that so much of the pop culture from the 90s or even before came from California, right? Like skating came from Venice, hip hop came from Los Angeles and New York too. Like so many things came from Los Angeles, and I like nothing has come out of Los Angeles or California the way it used to.
Well, you and Carl came out of California and Los Angeles and left, so maybe you'll bring pop culture to Vegas and Arkansas. How about that?
Maybe we'll do it with this. Who knows?
Yeah. Good point, though, Antonio. Real good point, man. Hey, let's move on to the quote of the day, boys.
Oh, sure.
I love this one. Incredible change happens in your life when you decide to take control of what you have the power over instead of craving control of what you don't.
Mm.
Isn't that great? I love it. Take control when you decide to take control over what you have power over instead of craving control over what you don't. I love it. So he's either an addict or a plagiarizer, because that comes straight from the Serenity Prayer, right?
I
You
was
guys know
about
the
to say,
Serenity
I've
Prayer?
heard it.
God give us the grace to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, Steve Maraboli, inspirational speaker, you got a good one there.
Yeah, and I was about to say I've heard it from Marcus Aurelius, just in a different way, but same thing.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it in recovery groups, and you know what I have to say to that? I'll drink to that.
So if people don't know, Ron is a fiend of cranberry and what?
Vodka.
And vodka.
Yeah, and even better, it's early morning when we're talking about this, so you know that's always a good sign.
You know what? That's still such a powerful quote. You know what? You can phrase it in any way, but it's still such an important quote, man. It gets you far. Absolutely.
Well, I had an example of this. It actually hit me last night because I was kind of in the dumps for a few days, thinking, well, how do I improve what I'm doing in life? Like, you know, where time for me to find a better job, because I've been working at Walmart and along with doing other things like this, but I was like feeling like, oh, am I stuck just going to be a cashier forever? You know, how do I get back into doing something more creative, etc., and or moving up, period, in jobs? And you know, my best friend told me yesterday, well, dude, you got to take action, and just you know, you're inside one of the world's largest companies. Why don't you ask somebody, are there better jobs you can do? Maybe there's something creative you can do. And within like 10 minutes of having that conversation, I prayed real quick, like, God, give me a way to find out about this. And I found that our HR guy for the store was working at 10 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock, and he was willing to talk to me on the spot right then. And he's going to try and hook me up with Walmart Radio, which is their own big, you know, national radio thing that they run. So by sitting around moping, I was getting nowhere. By taking some action, putting it out there that I wanted help, I got it. So it's I think that's a perfect example of what you're trying to get across in the quote there.
Wow, that's impressive, Carl. No, and it's crazy how when you actually tell people what it is you want, like people actually give you those things. Like, how are people supposed to read your mind and give you what you want? You know, they can't.
That's
But
a
yeah,
great point,
let people
Antonio.
know, and
That's a
the
great
universe
point.
gives you, God gives you, you know.
Antonio,
Yeah.
can I have money?
Yes.
Wow, it works.
No,
Yeah,
fellas.
so,
Yeah.
well, how about for you guys? I mean, did you have an example of how this is applied in your life?
You know what? I was just thinking how in my business, like when you get to a certain point, you start growing, but you also start increasing your expenses, and you just have to figure out, like, just like you, Carl. I was just asking how it could benefit me just to focus on the things that I could control, you know, the things that I could control as far as revenue flow and reducing costs and these things. And instead of stressing about the things I can't control, like, you know, the global economy, I focus on those things I can. And it just gives you control over your life, and you feel better, and you feel like you have some direction in the say in your life. So yeah, that's me too.
Well, to me, it's as soon as you're craving control over what you don't have control on, you're automatically in the victim category.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you're doing things and taking control of what you do have power over, you're not a victim anymore. And
you start feeling like a victim because you're like, I can't control my life. I have no control. I'm rudderless in life. So it does start making you feel like a victim.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, I think the key is when you decide to take control over those things, because those things are always there. It's, you know, whether you have the motivation, whether you have the courage, whether you have the some people just don't have the belief that they can do it or control things. But it's really not, you can't control the things you don't have control over, which is why the serenity prayer is so amazing, because it says in the wisdom to know the difference, right?
Yeah,
So
that's really
God
what
give
it
us
is,
the
right?
grace to accept the things we cannot change. So accept it. And that makes your life a lot more happier because you're thankful, because you're just, okay, that's the way it is. But the courage to change the things you can. So that means you're going to be active, and the wisdom to know the difference. Because if you're, trying to change things that you really have no control over, you're going to be hitting your head against the wall quite a bit.
And you know what? It makes me think about the grander country, how the world's a scary place, man. It's such a scary place. So many things are out of our control.
Depending on your attitude that you would go into the world with every day, really.
Yeah.
But yes,
Well,
it is.
well, my point is
can be.
this, that you hope that someone knows better than you. And that's why a lot of people rather give their power away to somebody else, because you feel like, well, at least maybe they know what they're doing. Maybe they can get me out of this mess. But in reality, no one knows any better than you. Everyone in this world doesn't have the answers 100%. We're all trying to figure it out. So, take your control back, take as much of it as you can back, and take responsibility, because at the end of the day, you got to own your victories and you got to own your failures. You got to own both.
It's really interesting you bring that up. I've had a few friends that have been in cults, like full-on cults, where they take everything you own, they change your name, they tell you who you can marry, that kind of cult, like
Wow.
full-on cult. And a couple of them, good friends, another performer that I would perform with sometimes. And in my mind, and I've known him since I was 12 or 13,
Yes.
and performed with him since then, maybe 13, 14. And even back then, I remember going, wow, I think maybe for him, life is easier when he doesn't have to make decisions. So he can give the power over to somebody else to make all their decisions for him, because they really tell him who they're going to marry. You don't, you go out, you make your money, and you give it to, that group was called Love Israel. It's in Seattle. And, it's I don't know, it's fascinating. Whereas I get too much enjoyment out of dreaming up my own life. It's actually fun. It's scary sometimes, but it's really fun, and it's fulfilling. It's very fulfilling.
To me, it's more scary to give that power away to somebody else. That's what's scarier to me. It is scary to do it on your own, but to give it away, that's even more frightening.
Right, like you have your own business right now. What if somebody came in to buy you out? The money would have to be pretty high to make you give away all your power to somebody else of how you run your business that you built from the ground up.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if I could even put a price on it, because it's your baby, right? You spend so much energy and heartache and everything into building something. Yeah. I don't even think there's a price on something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well,
hey, well, we should probably get to this week's news. So each week we bring you stories from the week's news about things that affect dreams, about dreams achieved or attempted and failed. And so now the news. Our lead story this week is about how the IRS has got some crazy new rules that could really put a damper on people's ability to pursue their dreams. Starting this month, the IRS is cracking down on people who make money from side hustles through Venmo, Etsy, and Airbnb payments of more than $600. People are being asked for their tax info from these sites. The old threshold used to be $20,000 or 200 transactions a year. This happens as people are being more entrepreneurial than ever, with a record 5.4 million people applying to have their own business last year. The rule doesn't keep track of friends and family payments, but just sales of goods and services. The funny thing is, this is a part of the American Rescue Plan, which is supposed to save, not harm small businesses. What do you guys say?
It's the U.S. government rescue plan, Carl.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that's going to be bad for your plans of side hustling being a gigolo, Carl. I think your gig is up.
Just charge $5.99, Carl.
Yeah, exactly. I typically I'm stuck doing the bargain basement rates of $100 at my considering my condition.
Well, once
Um,
again, the government goes after the little guy, and it's kind of depressing in the concept that, well, first I'm just going to say, number one, pay your taxes. Always pay your taxes, no matter what. Then you don't have any problems, right? But aside from that, the side hustle is one of the best ways the average Joe or Jane can dream up their life. I mean, it is really a great concept because it's, bringing in the extra cash and putting it away for a rainy day and investing it is the way you get ahead. Most people are just hand them out, they barely make it through. They only have a couple weeks beyond their paycheck to sustain them. But it's the side hustle that gets you up and out of that. And number three, government always ruins everything. So why do they want to come in and ruin everybody's side hustle? They did that in California with a thing called AB 5, which is Assembly Bill 5, where they tried to crack down on independent contractors and make everybody of a certain ilk be an employee. So that ruined side hustles for Uber. Remember Uber and Lyft? Carl, you did Uber and Lyft for a while, and
yeah, that's certainly not fun. But it is a way to make some extra money, and I'm lucky I got out of California because I've done it in Arkansas where we don't have that crazy rule. But I mean, it was starting to affect my ability to work as a freelance writer also because there was limits on how many articles you could sell.
Right, because each newspaper would have to make you an employee. So that was the government's goal, supposedly, to help all the workers. We're gonna make you all employees, and instead, everybody's side hustle got trashed, and people lost a lot of money. And it's always the little guy. Hey, I think the government does a great job, don't you guys? I think they should run everything. How about the high-speed rail in California? They originally estimated it was going to be $20 billion. Recent estimates for that same high-speed rail, $80 to $100 billion.
Wow.
And I bet you that's still an underestimate. I bet you. And isn't the train only going to go like just a few miles between like Bakersfield and some other?
Yes, but the estimates I had were from San Francisco all the way to Orange County, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's never going to happen.
Then the head of the National High Speed Rail Association said the train will still lose money and require a subsidy. So they spend $90 billion. By the way, that's $2,500 for every man, woman, and child in the state of California. And how many of them do you think will actually ride on it? Because not that many people fit on a flipping train.
They could have bought us, California could have just bought us all Lear jets and we would have been at the same cost.
Probably.
Yeah,
you could probably buy a fleet of Lear jets at 90 billion.
Yeah.
And pay for the fuel.
Yep. For a price of a train ticket. Yep.
Once again, the government ruins everything. In one of my properties, we're trying to put storage units in. We're going to do 180 feet of storage, 10 by 8 foot storage units at one of my properties. And it's already an apartment building that's doing well, but we have this extra space. We came up with the idea. And so there's a company that makes really nice storage units out of steel construction, really nice ones. And the city's getting in our way. First of all, we've waited 6 or 7 months to get the permit through the city. And then they come back and say, oh, you need an ICC number. So I'm like, okay, let me call the manufacturer. These guys manufacture them all across the country. I call them, the rep goes, I never heard of an ICC number. So now we finally figure out what it is. And they go, well, we can have one of our engineers draw up the exact specs for the plans, but that'll run you about $1,500. So now, because the city needs an ICC number, which I'm guessing the city, the head of the city that's giving out the permits, probably, I don't know if he can read the plans that well. I question it. And what's he going to do? I don't know. It's federal government gets in the way, costs us more money, slows everything down. And once again, Uncle Sam wants a piece of your side hustle because they're getting in Venmo, right? They got it through Venmo because all these transactions are happening through
No,
Venmo.
it's a cartel, my friend, and it's just like they come up to you and they're like, "That's a nice business you got there. Sure, be horrible if someone did something horrible to it, you know."
Yeah,
The government's the cartel.
Yeah.
total protection racket. Yeah, definitely.
So true. So
Do we need
true.
to move on, Carl?
Yep. Well, I think it's time for our guest. So here we go with our guest. Oh. All right, our very special guest today is a female comic who has done countless hilarious bits as the talking photo booth on The Tonight Show, been a regular on Girls Behaving Badly, and has had 2 hilarious comedy specials. She's also a wife and mom who juggles both parts of her life with great success. KIRA Soltanovich.
Yay!
Kira.
We have the Kira.
Hey,
Oh, smokes.
the female comic. Thank you for, I'm so glad you underlined that, Carl. I'm so glad we're zooming from 1987. Good job. Jesus Christ. I want to see how you bring up Black and Mexican comics.
You should
I
have
wanted to
heard
do
how the
that.
show started, Kira.
Oh my God, I can only imagine. Maybe I'm glad I wasn't here at 8 a.m.
He was
So
screaming
funny.
at me. He's like, "Antonio, can you understand what I'm saying?"
Wow. Wow. So as an immigration lawyer, you can kind of maybe look into his, jacked up last name and see what we can do. Maybe send him back
Yeah, I got connections. We'll
to
talk about
whatever.
it.
Antonio's nickname is "I can get you in," so that tells you anything.
Ooh, man,
Yeah.
I wish I was a refugee back when I was trying to get our green card. I'm an immigrant too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, Kira, your family came from the Ukraine, but back in Soviet days, right?
Right. The
To San
Soviet
Francisco?
Union. Yeah. USSR. We came to the East Coast first for just a little while, but yeah, I grew up in San Francisco, and I always knew I wanted to be a female comic. I always knew it.
Why not a male?
Yeah, I know. It didn't feel reachable. It wasn't like a reachable goal for
Well,
me.
that can change now. You just throw in some hormone blockers
It
and make
can.
it happen.
I can be trans comedy. I could be. My comedy is it's transitional because I don't go for laughs. I try to make people somber and sad. I'm transitioning into that type of stand-up.
So, what did your parents do? What did they do for a living?
My dad is at the base of it, he's a plumber. Like that's his that's what he was
It's a gig.
trained in. But then he
Yeah.
got all fancy and started doing sprinkler systems for City Hall in San Francisco. It's basically plumber, but it got fancy. And my mom at her core is a fashion designer. So she got fancy too. She started making, like Levi's, everything for Levi's and everything you have on your body. My mom has probably had a hand in making.
Wow.
Yeah, she's made everything from wedding dresses to onesies for babies, like everything.
Did
So-
either of them want you to follow in their footsteps?
No. They even told me, you're not smart enough. It's amazing how supportive immigrants.
Were you funny in school?
I was, and it got me into a lot of trouble. And my kids now, when they get in trouble, my husband who went to Catholic school for 12 years, you know what I mean? Who is like, follow the orders, or you get a ruler and a nun and a thing. And my kids get in trouble and I'm like, it's fine. You'll be okay. You can always be a clown like mommy. So that's where we kind of differ because he was, very regimented, and I
So
was.
if you ask both your kids, who do they like more? Would they say you over dad, or would they say
for
dad?
sure,
sure.
because I try to buy their love more.
Smart.
And you tell your kids the same thing if they want to get into comedy? You're not smart enough.
No, they're too smart. They're too
They're too
smart to
smart.
be a clown. Yeah. My kid, my 11-year-old, he has done some stand-up.
Oh, wow.
And it's horrendous to watch
Oh.
because I give him the exact wording of the joke. And like most open micers, they think they know better. and he'll mess it up. And I'm like, look, if you're not going to do the joke the way I wrote it, don't, you know what I mean? Like, just don't do it. Don't do it then. But he has done it a few times. Actually, Ron, at the Laugh Factory, a few Thanksgivings in a row, pre-COVID, where we would go and feed the homeless. They have comics perform afterward. You know that, right?
Yeah,
Christmas
I
and
have done it
Thanksgiving.
many
Yeah,
times.
you've
Yeah.
done it many times. I know. I've done it with you. I'm pretty sure. And I would bring my son, starting when he was 5. I brought him to help hand out, apple pie or pumpkin pie or whatever the pie was, or do scoops of mashed potatoes, and then clean. He would help me clean. So I would teach him about, being of service. And really, he just wanted the stage time. Then he'd be like, when do I get to go tell jokes? I'm like, you're not here to help the community. He's just like any other comic. Just
Yeah.
when do I get my chance
Yeah.
to make strangers like me?
So growing up, then you went to public school in San Francisco?
I did. I went to Hebrew Academy for a couple years, and then I really truly did get kicked out. They
For
were
what?
like, because Jews don't want you. You know what I mean? It's not like other religions where they're like, we're going on a missionary and we're getting a bicycle and a short sleeve dress shirt, and we want everyone to be part of our religion. Jews are more like, look, if you're not going to follow the rules, get out. So I was in trouble all the time. I was making jokes. I was, the teacher would be talking about something, let's say, I don't know, whatever, Moses. I don't know.
Economics.
Yeah, economics. I was in first grade, but okay, yes, economics.
Okay.
And
How
I'd
about
be behind the teacher doing like miming everything that the teacher was talking about. So, if it was, Moses and parting the Red Sea, I stood there and I was 6 and I parted the Red Sea and I was like, thank you. And I would mime everything the teacher was saying. It was like a terrible improv game. And I was kicked out. They were like, no, thank you.
were your parents upset, or do you just she went, oh, okay, we save money now. Now we go public school.
Yeah, we did. Went to public school after that. And I was in public school my,
So
entire.
did you do theater and stuff in public school?
I did. I was a theater major in college.
Right. So you went to San Diego State.
I did, yes. Ooh,
Well, my
look at
daughter's
you,
at your rival
Wikipedia.
down there, USD, University of San Diego. So
They're not
she's in
really
the-
a rival. They're not really worthy
you're-
rivals. They're cute. You know what I mean? Like they're cute. Like, oh, your dad
They're a
does
lot more
of.
expensive. That's not so cute on the bank account.
Yeah, well, that was your choice, dummy.
I know.
Yeah, you could have
Well,
steered them into a nice junior
Look,
college.
I don't think you've gotten to the place, Kira, where if you suggest something, it's not going to happen for your
Oh
children.
no, I've been there for years. I've been there
Okay,
since breastfeeding. I was like, well, how about the right one? And they were like, no,
Yeah.
the left only. Well, yeah, I know it's not easy to suggest, but I mean, again, money bags. You had to go make, $1 trillion juggling, didn't you?
Pretty much.
I blame
McCarty
you.
with teeth, Kira. But
I blame you.
But yeah, well, honestly, it's really tough with kids trying to. You can't tell them anything. You suggest, you bring it up when they don't. You talk about it so they don't even know you're suggesting it. You have to be
Right. You
no,
gotta
if
make
I
it.
mention it, it's out. I don't even get me started. But
Oh, well, it's a podcast, so maybe you should. That's the whole
okay.
point.
But, well, no, honestly, it's just going to take us off the beaten path. But
Okay, gotcha.
good luck with how you're going to do with your. But so you went to San Diego State. When
Yeah.
was the first time you did stand-up comedy?
So, okay, I tried it. This is so crazy. So I took a year off to go live in London. And I had always wanted to do stand-up, but I was scared. And I lived, of course, obviously in San Diego, and I would see Bobby Lee at the La Jolla Comedy Store back when he was just a open micer,
Yeah.
And I was like, and Bobby's a good friend of mine now, but I was like, if this guy can do it, right? But I was still so scared to try. So I went to London where nobody knew me. Like no one would even, if I failed, like no one would know, right? And that's where I kind of technically started.
So
Um,
comedy back in the day, I was back there in 82, 85. Did a TV show in like 90 over there on London
mhm.
Weekend Television. And comedy was very different in not that you were in those years, but
No.
they were kind of still in the whole game of comedy was the audience heckles the comedian attacks
Yes.
them back.
Yes.
And it wasn't until probably the late 90s or early 2000s that they really switched out of that.
Well, yes, a lot of other comedy markets in different parts of the world started really catching on to what everyone was doing in the United States. I
Yes.
mean, South Africa, they just started stand up. I'm not kidding, like maybe 15 years ago. It's very new in South Africa. I went
Right.
there a few times and there were, I'm not even exaggerating, 7 comics working. I'm not even kidding. Now
Wow.
I'm sure there are many more. Trevor Noah helped put them on the map,
Yeah.
but back in the first time I went was 2010, 2009. There were like maybe at the most 10 working comics. It
Wow.
just wasn't a thing. So, and also the same thing happened in Russia. So a lot of people are like, "Oh, are you going to go try to do stand up in Russia?" And yes, I know there are some English speaking comics that go and do gigs specifically for like expats, let's say.
Avi
It's
Lieberman just went and
Avi
loved it.
Lieberman goes a lot. There are a lot of comics that
Loved it.
have gone, but stand up is still different. It's more of a monologue. It's not as many jokes. They don't expect as many laughs. And so when I first did it in London, it was part of an improv troupe that I was in, right? And then you went on and did like a funny monologue. So that's why I consider it really my first time ever. And it was
It was
awful.
more of
It
a
was
theater
awful.
setting then,
It was
almost.
theater setting. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very, very different. But it gave me, I knew I wanted to eventually just put all the fears aside. And by the way, the fears are legitimate because I sucked for the first 2 years. I mean,
Yeah, I
some
saw you.
people
It
might
was
say,
pretty
yeah,
bad.
I still suck. But for the first 2 years that I did open mics, it was painful. And a lot of people usually quit. A lot of people do not. They don't have this mental illness
Comedy's
that I
hard.
do.
It's hard.
It's really hard because you'll have one like amazing night where you're like, wow, all these jokes worked, and then 1,500 terrible ones in a row. You have to just keep. You have to just keep doing it. You just have to.
Have you ever done it in any other languages?
Oh, okay, I have a story for you. Oh my
Great.
God, this is awful. So there's a guy, I don't know, you know him. I feel bad saying his name, but he's like a comedy manager, booker, whatever. Anyways, it rhymes with Moo Solfman. Anyways, it's Stu Golfman. Anyways, so Stu calls me. He's not my manager, but he just calls me. He goes, "Look, there's an event in San Francisco. I grew up in San Francisco." I'm like, "Okay, already sounds good."
Yep.
It pays X amount of dollars for corporate. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty good. It's decent corporate money." It's for a Russian company, but they don't expect you to do the show in Russian because there's a lot of, again, Americans or Germans or whoever. Just English is fine. I go, I just want to reiterate, I will not be able to do anything in Russian because my jokes can't just be extracted and then, you know what I mean? It's not that easy. It doesn't work. It just doesn't
Yeah,
work. You'd have to write a whole new set, and I'm not going to write a whole new set.
of course. And that's a lot of work. People
It's a
don't
lot,
understand
and I'm not going to
writing a
do
new
it.
set. Steve Martin spent 13 years getting his first hour. Most comics spend
Yeah.
13 years getting
Yes.
1 hour.
Absolutely.
That
That's
works
what
well.
I
Yeah.
always say that. It could be anywhere from a decade to 20 years for that first and that's why all the first albums are so good.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
and then whatever network, 3 months later, there's like, "Great, can you have another one for us?" No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. And that's why they progressively get worse. Anyways, I get to this gig and I even call Stu again. I go, "Look, I'm a little worried. I feel like they're expecting this gig in Russian." He's like, "No, no, 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 they are not." They absolutely were. They absolutely were. I get there and they're like, "Why aren't you performing in Russian?" And I said, "Because these jokes are not written in Russian. It's like Mandarin. Why aren't you doing this in Mandarin? I don't know. So I had to do crowd work in Russian for
Yeah.
an
Ooh.
hour of crowd work. And it was painful because Russians are horrible people. And they don't give up laughs easily. They don't give up claps easily. Nothing. They have been beaten down by communism. Even though communism now is a thing of the past, it doesn't matter. It stays with you like a smoker's, clothes. It just, you reek of it. And it doesn't matter how many times you brush your teeth, you have this communist breath. It doesn't matter. So I call Stu and I go, I explained to you so many times that I cannot do this in Russian. He's like, I guess it was a communication. What? There was no glitch in the communication.
Stu just wanted the corporate cash. That's what he wanted.
I felt so awful when I left that night. I was like, this is one of those stories that I'll laugh about later, but it was painful in that moment.
So I
Did he
performed
ask you to
in
come back?
French, I've performed in German, I've performed in
Oh.
Russian, all
You
three.
You have not spoken all those languages. Well, because you juggle. Of course, a
Exactly.
unicycle is an international language.
It is. It is.
Yes.
It helps. It
I
helps.
know, court jester.
Well, did your have you found that your background being I know you came when you were very young as an immigrant, but being part of an immigrant family, did that shape a lot of your comic perspective? Like, do you feel like you look at life or society differently coming from a family that were outsiders that came into America?
Thanks for waking up, Carl, to ask that question.
He's no joke,
I
he's a
know.
former narcoleptic.
I
He's
know.
not
I know
narcoleptic
that.
anymmer, but
What? Former?
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
over.
know. I feel like we're all still a little narcoleptic in our hearts. I don't know what your question was because it took half an hour to ask it, but I think what you're saying, Carl, is was it weird to be an outsider? Is that what the was
I'm
that?
saying, does that affect your perspective as a comic, like how you look at life and society and all that?
Here's what's funny is that in these crazy times that we live in, right? I have a lot of, USSR in my ears, right? A lot of my cousins and family members and people that live, I have family all over the world, mostly in the States, but still in Russia and in Israel and in Chile and in crazy parts, right? And they're all, again, you cannot just wash the Soviet propaganda away. And they're all like, what's happening right now in America happened. And, you know what I mean? Like they're all like trying to, they're very paranoid about everything, which I understand. Because guess what? Why trust government when government that you're used to, right? That you grew up in for decades and decades and decades, tried to starve you, tried to keep you from, having basic human, like clothes, right? Like you would wait in line and you never knew what you were waiting in line for. I mean, if I'm in line at Whole Foods and there are more than 3 people ahead of me, I am writing a letter to corporate. And my family would wait in line for 8 hours, not knowing if it's shoes or soup. Like nobody knew. When you got to the front, that's what it was. So I do think, like, especially now, like in these COVID pandemic times, I find it very interesting because I like, as a comic, questioning things. And I think we should always question things. That's what makes stand-up the most interesting. So yes, is the answer to your question.
Okay, well,
And I would
let's
love
piggyback
to-
on that.
Can
Let's
we do
piggyback
this
on that.
show as a fundraiser to get more vowels for Carl's last name, please? Can we maybe open up? Maybe.
But on that, no, but based on that last question,
Yes.
you've got people like Joe Coy, who's a great comic, but he really connects, obviously, to the Filipino community that really just made him crush it as a international draw. You look at Maz Jabrani, who it just crushes it with the Persian community. Do you think you have a space for that in the Russian community, or no?
they first have to learn happiness.
You know what, Kira, you have a
Desire to
space
laugh.
in the Kira, you have a space in the Latino community because I've been binging on your show because you have actually combined my two favorite things, which is comedy and saunas. That is incredible. I love the banyas. I am addicted to the Russian
What?
banyas.
Oh my God, me and you are going.
Yeah,
How do you feel about co-ed clothing optional though?
I'm cool. I'm
Okay,
cool.
okay, then we'll
Yes.
go. Then we'll go. I took Tom Papa to a Russian banya in San Francisco, and it was clothing optional. We optioned for it because we are professionals who work together. But it's very interesting to be with a fellow comic, someone that you travel with, someone that is new to banyas, and there's just dongs everywhere, just dongs, just flowing like everywhere, like so many. And then we have to just be there together and accept it and okay, here's what we are. We're gonna be the closest to an orgy that we'll ever get together. But
I am
yes,
down. I am down.
I'm so glad that you like. You have a fire behind you, kind of getting a little bit of that heat right now. I am obsessed. I am truly addicted.
Why?
And I was okay. So again, this is cultural. My mom started taking me to Russian banyas when I was about 8, which I'm sure is probably frowned upon now because they're like,
Right.
really, it's too intense for an 8-year-old. But I would go. You get beaten with sticks. There's a lot of sweat on you, a lot of hairy nipples, and that's just the women, right? But a lot of just aggression. It's aggressive. It's very aggressive because your body is purging, right? And when you're around that all the time as a kid, that you think like, okay, this is how life should be. And I loved it. And also it was like a nice bonding thing for my mom and I, because when we were in the sauna, she couldn't yell at me because she was busy sweating. So that was nice. It was a break from all that mental abuse. And I just grew to really love it. And I have a sauna in my backyard. That show that you watched
Yes.
was in my real sauna. It was really on and everyone was really sweating. And I want to keep doing it. We did it right before COVID. And then of course, COVID happened and nobody wants to sit next to you half naked, sweating when there's a pandemic. I don't know why. It's actually probably the best place to be is in a sauna because you're detoxing.
Yes. Yes.
You drink vodka in there?
If I was a 55-year-old overweight man, yes, I would.
So it works for me.
You're not overweight. No, I don't. But I don't really drink anyway. But yes, a real true banya. They will serve Russian food in the little cafe. Where do you live, Antonio?
Well, I'm in Las Vegas, but that's why I asked you if you were in LA because I'm always in LA.
Okay, so in Las Vegas there's a Korean spa, but I don't think there's a Russian banya. There's a
No.
Korean spa in Las Vegas.
Do you also have the ice bath at home?
So
Or
what
just-
I do, I cheat and I jump into my pool, which is freezing right now.
True.
So that's what I use.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I jump into my
George
pool right
Wallace
after.
and I were traveling around and we were in South Korea and we go, hey, we got nothing to do. Let's go get a massage. So we end up in the Korean spa, not realizing it's just not like the
not
Four
relaxing.
Seasons spa.
Yeah, no.
It's just a bunch of naked men hanging around. Then the guy goes, okay, we're gonna give you a massage now. And the guy starts off by putting all his weight on your head.
Yes, yes, yes.
And George's behind there hurting, and I hear him going, "Hey, ow, ow!" What do you? But the guy doesn't speak English, and George is just.
Well, ow is international.
I got such a good laugh.
I know. I felt the same way when I hired the Vanyaki people, which are the brooms, the big, huge leaves, the branches to beat Tom Papa upon the head.
How much do they cost? You hired them to do that? How much?
Well,
how much
you have
does
to
that
like
cost?
hire them. Yeah, you can't. They don't just show it. Like you gotta reserve it. I was like, all right, I'm gonna get these people to beat you upon your body, and he did love it. He did love it. It was painful a little bit, but he did love it.
Well, so now you have a family, you have kids. Have you ever, are you more interested in, what's success to you in that side of life, and what's success to you in show business kind of side of life?
Ooh. Well, I mean, USD would be nice if I had that kind of success in show
She's
biz.
about to graduate in May. She graduates and she got a 3.85 and a job at the same time. So
must be nice. All those gigs with George Wallace paid off. I think just you got to find a balance. So unfortunately, a lot of people, they think that if you are finding that work family balance, that somehow you're not like going for it. And why don't you have I love when people ask you like, well, why don't you have a Netflix special? And it's like, it's not like I've turned them down. It's not like they're coming to me and going, well, no, we have Little League. I wish I could, but I'm busy. The kids have a soccer game. Like, I'm not turning it down, but I also, if I consistently only pursued career, then I would feel pretty terrible about, not doing the things that I need to do. And it's different for women too. Like male comics, no offense, but you guys are like, whatever, 10 minutes after the baby's born and you're on a plane. You know what I mean? Like, I got to be in Milwaukee. Like, it's so much easier for you guys just to go take off and keep working. Whereas,
True.
You got to take some real downtime as the mom, as the person who gave birth through the lobby, by the way, not the sunroof. It's different, right? I mean, I can't get on a flight.
Well, if you like getting beat in a banya, we know it's going to come out the lobby rather
I
than
can take, yes, I can take pain, but I also was just peeing nonstop, and you really can't go to Wise Guys and perform with a diaper on. So I had to take downtime. So I'm just trying to find that balance. I'm luckily, thankfully, always working. I'm always doing something. I'm always either in front of the camera, behind the camera. I'm always working on something, so I never feel like I'm not getting where I want to be. But yeah, would I like USD money? Sure, one day.
Well, you know what? No, but seriously,
Seriously,
truly, you're a great comedian, like a pound for pound.
Female comedian.
Yes, let's. Well, you just made the difference right there. You just said there's a difference.
There is in biology, but not when people should introduce you.
That's okay. Well said. I didn't write that. However, but do you think there's a difference in the business? Do you think it is harder or easier in the business as a woman, or exactly the same?
I think it depends what you want.
Okay.
So it really depends. I think when people kind of do these broad strokes of like, well, male comics have it easier. Well, not really, because just mathematically, there are way more male comics than female. And honestly, that number is probably changing a lot because there's just an explosion of stand-up.
But if you go back 20 years, it was quite different.
If you go back 20 years, there were way more male comics trying to wedge themselves into, what we call success, right? Whatever that was at the time, a sitcom, whatever. And there were much less female comics, but it felt like there were always a great handful of successful, who we would call successful, right?
Yes.
Female comics. Now I think the numbers are different and success is different. Some people see success as, I got 3 million hits on TikTok and now you're a success. So everything is so different and fluid right now. And I don't think the mathematics are the same at all. I really don't think it's, I got my own TV show means that you are a successful comic, or you got on late night. Late night, I feel, and like, I don't mean any disrespect, but it's not as prestigious as it was.
100%.
And if you get a late night spot, it's kind of like doing flappers. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, good, you got a late night spot. Like, it's not, it doesn't hold the prestige anymore.
It used to change. It literally would change your career
change
overnight.
Your life. Change your life. Yeah.
And now,
and now
what do you
that's
think
being
is
on Joe Rogan. That's what that is now.
Yeah.
What do you think the future of comedy is then? Where are we headed?
Oof. Well, I think we know that comedy is not essential. because it was one of the first things, you know what I mean? Like, we are not essential at all. I think more people will be doing Zoom shows and things like this, because even though businesses were opened up this last holiday season, I still did a bunch of corporate Zoom shows. People were still not in the office. So
No Russian Zoom shows, so
what's that?
no Russian Zoom shows.
God no, God no. I will not return an email from Stu Golfman ever again. And so I think there's just going to be a big shift in, stand up is now on TikTok more than
Yeah.
anything else. Instagram and TikTok that's like where it lives. People don't have to go to clubs. Some clubs, by the way, are streaming their shows. Some clubs
Crazy.
will, you can buy tickets to attend live, but you can also buy a ticket to watch it on your computer.
It's
I don't know. It feels
the world's
weird.
changing.
It feels weird. So I think it's always going to be fluid and changing. And I just want to tell jokes. That's it.
So if I was to define success, I would say being great at what you do. You're definitely great at what you do, and you've captured a voice. Your comedy has a voice, which is the hardest thing in comedy to find, right? I can be funny on this way, I can be funny on that way, but when you have your own original voice, it's a rare thing when people can come up and go, oh, that's a KIRA joke. I could write for her all day long. And you've definitely achieved that. And I guess you go back to do you think your background as an immigrant child influenced that voice and created that voice? And you're not really speaking with it much today. You have a rasp in your voice, and your actual voice adds to your comedic voice.
Yes, because I one of my you said that and I got one of my things is my brand is angry. That's my brand. I'm angry. And you kind of have that a little bit too, where you're like, it's a fun, what I call fun fed up, right? It's not fed up like I'm going to burn this place down. It's fun fed up, like, it's driving me crazy, right?
Yes.
And I have that too, where I am like, I have a joke that I do now about having to be this LA mom, and all my LA mom friends are like super crunchy and super granola, and they're all just like positive parenting and connect to the earth. And I'm sitting here every day just trying to manage this angry Soviet inside of me, and I'm pushing her down on a date like, oh, Ganyet, be nice. Like that's my struggle. And that's a real struggle that I really truly have, because I do have this angry Russian that nature, nurture, whatever it is, I am trying to calm her down all the time, because Russians are very explosive. My entire childhood was very explosive. Everyone was always screaming and spitting and yelling and sweating. And it's just a very smelly, aggressive childhood. And so I do think that that's kind of what I do on stage, is that I have that kind of, people do think, they're like, oh, I love your voice. It's so Sam Kinison. And I cannot tell you how awful that makes me feel. I'm like,
it doesn't seem that way to me. It doesn't.
I don't
seem
think
that way
so
to me.
either, but they have one reference, and so people just pull from that one reference.
Yeah.
But but I do have an aggressive, because I'm trying to show through jokes the struggle, try to make it interesting and entertaining, but it is real.
I think what you're doing is you're connecting with other people's angers that they can't put words to.
Yeah.
And you're really good at expressing it in such a wonderfully sarcastic, angry way that it makes you laugh. It just makes you laugh. I think people relate. I think women definitely relate to you. As a man, I relate to your comedy very well too. So it's a great voice. I'm a little jealous of the voice you have,
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I told the guys, I go,
I
Kira's
can't-
pound for pound one of the best comics out there, I think. You're
well,
very
I
good.
can't.
That's not what you said, Ron.
No, I
not
said
what
she's
you
really
said.
heavy. She needs to lose
She's
some weight.
very heavy.
But pound for pound, if you
Pound for
dissect it
pound.
for that, she's pretty good.
Thank you. I will take that as such a huge compliment.
No, but it's true. But I just think, this show is called Dream Up, and it's about connecting on why people became successful and what their success is about, what obstacles they overcame, and that's what we try and get into. And oftentimes we get into the art form of whether it's music or this or that, what you're tapping into to create your voice and create your sound or create your whatever your brand is, you know. So
Yeah.
you know, the angry Soviet is still alive, and they're not going away.
No, not so easy to go
Yeah.
away. No. And I want to just tell your dozens of listeners that
There's 8.
oh,
You really overshot it.
oh, okay. Well, I was counting us 4 as well. That it is a process that you have to you gotta enjoy it, whatever it is. Whatever it is. You have to, if you're not enjoying it, get out. Get
Okay,
out.
so go forward a decade. Where's KIRA Soltanovich?
Well, I'm getting my 34th booster, and
Nice.
you know, I'm really excited about where I'm going right now because I've been doing a lot of writing and getting hired to punch up, and that just makes me feel great. You know, as a comic, I don't want to sit down and write an entire script, but I would love to tell you where you need jokes. Like that's like my favorite thing. So I'm getting, like, people are acknowledging that, and that makes me feel amazing. So I'm doing a lot more writing and doing like you just saying, my voice. I'm doing the prizes and the announcing for Jay Leno's game show, You Bet Your Life. We did our
Great.
first season last year. And again, not many female announcers. I know I'm making the distinction.
There's
not
the
many-
voice. I just heard it. You just put a little scratch in there on purpose. That was good.
But I'm doing season 2 now. We'll start shooting in a few months. So yeah, just doing the success is honestly enjoying whatever comes. So right now I'm doing voiceovers, fantastic. And then next week I'll punch up a script. I love it. It keeps it interesting, keeps me busy. If I can do more of that at a heightened scale and my kids can go to a fancy private school, then I'll be ecstatic.
And
So-
KIRA, where can people find you? Where can people
In a
find
sauna with you, half naked.
Online, but definitely that.
KIRA comedy. KIRA. I don't know when does this drop, as the kids say.
On a Thursday.
Okay, so on Friday, right? The 20th, is that Friday? I'll
Yeah.
be in Dallas. I'll be at TK's Comedy Club in Addison, in
Oh,
Dallas.
that's fantastic.
Awesome.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
All
And
right.
2 of our listeners are in Dallas, so there you go.
And I have a house in Dallas. How about that?
Wow, you just want to keep name dropping Wallace and houses and countries you've been to.
All from
Wow.
juggling,
You
KIRA.
guys-
All from
do
juggling.
you guys want to just
Right
call this podcast Ron Name Drops?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's his
All right.
next
Well,
step.
hey, we got to wrap it up, but I want to thank you, KIRA, for taking the time to tell us about your life and have some fun with us. And till next time, I'm one of your hosts, Carl Kozlowski, and with the saying goodbye also is from Hollywood.
Ron and Antonio and KIRA, thank you so much for
Thank you,
listening
KIRA.
out there, everybody. Talk to you
All
soon.
right.
Namaste.
Thanks for tuning in.